Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Brave the Adventures with me, Hayley.
Me, Rob.
And we cannot wait this afternoon. It's been a couple of weeks since we returned from Efteling. We're still really sad to be back and we miss it so much. But as promised, we really wanted to take some time this afternoon just to talk about one of our real highlights that we could not have done justice on our other videos for the channel. So today we're going to bring you our review and a bit of a talk about our highlights of course, brand new ride at Efteling at Danse Macabre.
Yes, if you've watched our part one of our Efteling trip, you know we ended outside Symbolica, which is our last ride of the day, and our previous ride to that was our first ever ride on Danse Macabre. It had only been open a couple of weeks, so the queue was long, but my goodness, was it worth it? I think we were a bit, not traumatized is the wrong word, a bit of a strong word, but we were very
Shell
affected,
shocked,
we
I
were shell
think.
shocked by the ride after what we'd seen in a good way. So yeah, as Haley said, we don't think we could have done it justice in the park, and we were very, very cold at that point. So we just thought we'd get some footage together from our visit and just talk a little bit about this awesome ride over at Efteling. So this ride replaces one of the favourite attractions at Efteling, which was Spookslot, which was the Haunted Castle walk-through ride, which has an amazing show at the end. So this ride opened in 1978. It was the first ride to be built at the Efteling outside of the fairy tale forest, and it was a massive investment for the park. The ride started with a walk through a number of dark corridors where you would see various scary things. I went on this back in 1990 and it terrified me actually, but it is one of the most vivid memories I actually have from my childhood. Um, so yeah, what I remember is you go through various different rooms. There's slamming doors. There's a chandelier that's held up by a severed arm, and you hear the story about the haunted castle. You then make your way into a large show building where you're on a tiered stand, and in front of you, the Danse Macabre starts playing, which is a really famous piece of music, and it's basically a scary show of coffins. There are monks, which were absolutely petrifying, and the crescendo builds up at the end. And it was a really, really important part of the park and everybody's favourite. Over the years, obviously, lots of wear and tear, and in 2022, the park made the decision that they were going to close Spookslot. It caused a massive ruckus with Efteling fans all eager to know what was coming as its replacement. And later on that year, Danse Macabre was revealed as the replacement to Spookslot.
And I think it's fair to say I've never experienced Spookslot, but we were both so excited to ride this with also probably a little bit of trepidation from yourself about how it would compare. And I think the thing that you told me that you've enjoyed the most is obviously seeing some of those nods to Spookslot. It's obvious that what this park have done so well is to really consider how important Spookslot was to fans of Efteling and to the park itself and its history. So we've definitely got some nods to Spookslot. How, in your mind, do you think it compares as Danse Macabre to the original?
I don't think you can compare the two, although they both use the same music and there's a number of props from it. The staging of Danse Macabre is absolutely incredible. It's a world first ride, which we'll probably discuss in just a little bit of detail. But for me, what is really impressive is the way they have used various parts of the Spookslot attraction in here. Efteling are so proud of the history of the park, which we just do not have in the UK from any of our parks. So it was great to see. And I think it just softened the blow slightly for people who used to love the Spookslot attraction. So I can kind of take us through, if you like, a little bit of a walk
Definitely.
through. We're not going to
I
go
don't think you can do it justice, but I think a
give
little
it a
bit
go.
of
Thank you very much.
details would be brilliant. But what I would say is if you've seen a POV of this ride, it cannot compare to what you're going to experience. I
No.
am not a person of few words, as everybody on the channel will know. I actually came out of this ride completely speechless. So
And I
please
quite
try to
enjoyed
do
that
it
as
some
well.
justice.
Yeah. Yeah, so there are loads of POVs on there. We didn't film on board. We really just wanted to experience the ride for itself. And also, there's quite a few spoilers online, and we're probably going to mention a couple of things now which are spoilers as well. So if you are going to experience this for the first time, as we did, without any spoilers, then just skip to the end. But do remember to like and subscribe as well, because that would really help us out. So Danse Macabre is on the exact same piece of land where Spookslot was in the Anderijk part of the park. There's this really impressive abbey, this kind of octagonal designed abbey, bits falling off it, really, really atmospheric. We rode it for the first time in the dark, actually, which I'd absolutely recommend.
Yeah.
As you enter the queue line, you will notice a cat. The black cat is ever so cute. It's got a blue eye, it's got a yellow eye, and it moves its head as you walk past it, and you can hear it meowing and purring. You then walk into the cloisters of the abbey, and just to say, the queue does actually move really slowly. You seem to be stood in the same position for a very long time, but actually, once the queue does start moving again, you actually move through into the next area quite quickly. And this is the way that they actually batch the ride. There are 108 riders on each cycle of this, so it is really, really impressive. So you move through the cloisters, then you go into the herb garden where you can see actual real herbs associated with death, which is very in keeping with the darkness of quite a few of the Efteling attractions. You then move into the cemetery, where there's lots of nods to the old Spookslot attraction. As well, there is actually a tombstone of Kate Bush, although the note in this version of the ride is Catherine Bush, and the reason for that is she actually filmed the video to Wuthering Heights actually in the old Spookslot attraction, so really keeping that history alive. You then, as you walk through into the woods, you pass a mausoleum, and as you walk past the mausoleum, the door clatters open and close. You can't see what's going on behind there, but it really builds up that suspense. And again, this is a nod to the old queue of the Spookslot attraction. You then find yourself in the woods, which again is so atmospheric. There's mist, there's light, you can hear animals running through the undergrowth, the unnameable evil. As we might mention in just a little while, to keep that cat in the back of your head, because that's what's going on there. If you look up into the trees, there's some bats, and they're animatronic bats, so they move. And then you make your way up some stairs along a wooden bridge and to the Abbey entrance.
And at the top of that Abbey entrance, I think one of the most memorable parts that people that have ridden Spookslot you will see is the illuminated green violin, which welcomes you into the attraction and really sets the scene. I think it's probably the most famous item of the ride in both its past and present state. And then you'll be divided into 6 catacombs of the Abbey. The ride moves really quickly at this point, and you're divided up, and it's so immersive at that point because you are only with the other riders that are going to fill that choir bench pillar from the church once you are in there. So it is, you feel very kind of, you've gone from all these people when the queue line is so busy to suddenly there's a small number of you. And then after a short period of time, you will enter the Abbey itself into one of those, what we're calling them, kind of church seating. Choir stalls, yes.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got some footage of that to show you what it looks like inside, because it really just feels so immersive from the moment that you enter. What I will add is wherever you are placed, you are going to have a different ride experience, but it's no kind of better or worse where you're sat. We've been really fortunate that I think we've ridden it 3 times, and I think we've been placed in 3, 4, and 5. And for each of those, slightly different angles, you see slightly different things, which makes the ride different every single time. But on each occasion, I wouldn't say that our ride experience was any lessened or increased by where we were placed. We were really fortunate to be on the front row, which I do think helps slightly during that. Once you're actually in the ride itself, there is a small kind of lap bar restraint. It's not particularly tight or anything like that. It's a very comfortable ride. It's very roomy. And then our lovely friend, whether he's lovely or not, the black cat is going to be seen hiding in the instruments of the orchestra. And what I really liked in that build up where everybody is getting seated and maybe you might lose some of that atmosphere, I was so focused on seeing which instrument the cat was going to appear out of that I didn't really notice that. Sometimes he's in the drum, sometimes he's in the tuba. Um, and then everybody will be sat down, and then that real dark, sinister magic is going to happen.
Yes, so obviously you get sat down. I was just say there's a smell in there, so there's incense. And like most of the Efteling in dark rides, they do have a certain smell pods, which again just adds to the experience. So you'll be ushered into your seats, lap bars go down, and just to say the ride ops are all in character as well, so they're quite sinister. They're all meant to be relatives of the Charlatan family, which this attraction is about as well. So they're all playing a specific role, as well as obviously looking after your safety whilst you're in the ride. So you're all seated, the lights go down, and then each of the 6 catacomb doors close in sequence. And this is quite scary. This really does build
It's
up this atmosphere.
really great. It's
It is.
so amazing. You feel like something spectacular is going to happen.
And it does. So once all the doors are closed, the instruments in front of you all start moving, and you hear this. You see a big flash of lightning which illuminates all of the abbey, and then you hear this terrifying wail of. So we've gone from meows and purrs to this terrifying cat noise, as it were, and then the music starts. Danse Macabre starts, and when the abbey is next illuminated, you see this amazing animatronic of the conductor Joseph Charlatan. Again, a nod to Spookslot. They wanted to have an animatronic conductor in that attraction, but they just did not have the budget and they did not have the technology available. So thankfully, in this version, we now do have this amazing conductor who conducts the Danse Macabre. At this point, the platform which you are seated on starts to move, and this is where the ride is really unique. So this is Intamin's first ever dynamic motion stage. So it is the prototype. It's a huge disc which includes 6 additional smaller discs, which are where the quiet stalls are. All of these smaller discs can move independently, and all at the same time as this huge disc can lift up, can tilt, can drop, all in time with the music. As the music starts, you will see various animatronics and scenes throughout the experience. Again, some nods to Spookslot, where you've got the three heads who are now playing musical instruments as well, which is a new addition. And again, as Hayley said, in wherever you sat, you will see something slightly different. You will see at some point you'll tip down into the crypt, which is really clever, and you'll see Esmeralda trying to get out of her coffin. You will see there's lightning on the ceiling. There's just so much there. Again, loads of POVs online. So rather than us going on about that, just take a look at that. The ride then builds up to its climax, its sinister climax, and at this point you are raised right up into the roof of the abbey, and then all of a sudden,
Don't spoil it.
okay, good idea. Sorry, get carried away. I don't know if you've
Don't
noticed.
spoil the finale.
We said no spoilers, but yeah.
There were a few
Start.
spoilers, but you can't give the ending away because that will be just a monumental spoiler, and we'll have no subscribers left.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, thank you. Yeah. Away there. Had to over Hayley. Well, I was
And I will
saying,
say, before I'll interject before Rob gives away the entire ride. We said at the beginning there when the ride starts that there is this scary point where perhaps we decide that maybe our friendly little kitten that we saw at the beginning of the queue line is not so friendly. However, I never felt particularly scared on this ride, and it's the enjoyment of it overtook the scariness. It's got quite a low height restriction on it, this ride, 1.2 meters. So it is a family attraction. And I really want to make sure that we and anybody else reviewing it don't give it a disservice in terms of it is a family attraction. It's creepy and it's surreal, but it's not scary or particularly frightening. There is a part right at the beginning where it is actually in pitch black, though. So I will just point that out for anybody who does find being in the dark really scary. There is a point of pitch black, but I do still think it's an attraction that you could ride as a whole family. And we saw many families, didn't we, on it?
yeah, we did. Great again, great to see all the families on there. And yeah, it's not too intense. Obviously, there is lots of spinning on there as well, but it doesn't make you feel nauseous. And we all know I have a bit of a weak stomach every now and then, so it didn't really affect me in that way. So the ride finishes. And you then are directed out of your quiet stalls and out through the gift shop. But again, this gift shop is just
Brilliant.
themed so well, and again, using props from the old Spookslot attraction. And then
And
out,
I love a gift shop. Let's be honest. I live for a gift shop, and this one is brilliant. And you have got the old chandelier that was used in Spookslot actually being used to house some of the merch on
with the
there. It
severed
feels like a
arm.
with a severed arm. It feels brilliant. It's impossible to come out of that shop without spending any money. It is absolutely brilliant, and some of the merch is so well themed. And I really want to put a shout out to our friends at Dutch Theme Park Network, who actually have looked into this ride in so much detail that even the jigsaw puzzles have 108 pieces to replicate the number of riders that can ride this ride at any time. That's the level of merch that we are talking about. It
So
is
good.
absolutely superb. And when you come out, I think the first time we left that gift shop in the pitch black with the lighting of Efteling and the lighting of Danse Macabre, I don't think either of us spoke for about 5 minutes, which is pretty unheard of.
Probably
People would
2 minutes
pay
for you, Hayley, to be honest. I don't think we got full 5 minutes, did
it
we?
felt like forever that we were quiet. But
Not quite long enough for me.
I don't feel that we really knew what to kind of say to each other. And I think I mentioned in our on our previous Efteling visit video that when you're an adult, you put these expectations on things, and very rarely do things hit that expectation and leave you kind of speechless, thinking, "Oh my goodness, that was better than I ever thought it could be." And that is how I felt at the end of Danse Macabre.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Right from just getting into that queue and then all the way through that queue line, which, yeah, it moves slowly in blocks, but actually there is so much to see in there.
Yeah.
It's really atmospheric. So, yeah, it's amazing. The area itself, there are, again, lots of things to do. There is a food offering, and as with all Efteling food offerings, the food is excellent. The toilets as well, just to say that these toilets are themed, so you can hear the cats purring and you can hear the Danse Macabre music playing as well. So
What
again,
you doing your business?
yes, whilst using a tray, you can hear the cat doing its business. And Haley, in the queue line, there is one of your absolute favourites.
Yes, there is. There's a Holly Bolly guy who is a monk, and he is amazing. We're going to flash him up. He is, I want to call him the Lord of the Paper, because out of all the Holly Bolly guys, he's definitely the one that's hungry for paper, and he talks and talks and talks, which is so good. It passes the time. He is a replacement of, I think, the previous soldier Holly Bolly guy that was outside. Is
Killer.
he a soldier? He's a sailor, isn't
It
he?
is.
Sorry, everybody. He's a sailor. I never got to see him. And I think everybody is really glad that they have still replicated having one of those Holly Bolly guy bins outside. So that does help pass the time. The other thing I really liked in the queue line was there is a nod at the beginning. There is a little monk who is actually based upon the creator of the Danse Macabre ride. And Rob, you mentioned that the cat is sitting there. And as you go through the queue line, you have to look everywhere because there are clues all around. And right on the ground, you've got the cat's paw prints as well. And you can see them getting bigger and bigger, and then they disappear. So it is such an immersive queue line. So I think we queued no less than 60 minutes. We did queue for an hour for each of our three rides. We rode it both in the afternoon and in the evening, and it didn't really make much difference. But what I will say is, because of the position of it, it is so tempting to just head to Danse Macabre right at the beginning of the day. And actually, we avoided that because the queues there were hitting kind of in excess of about 100 minutes. And obviously, it's a queue, as Rob said, that's stop start. So sometimes you do feel like you are losing the will to live when you haven't moved for about 8-9 minutes, and it's cold. It does feel really cold in that part of the park. So do
Yeah.
wrap up warm, particularly if you're going for winter Efteling. There's also a show, I believe, that takes place outside with the charlatans themselves.
Yeah, there is.
Which so lots of things to keep you amused in that area if you're not riding. And also there is the cabinet of the missing, which
There is.
talk us through that.
To me.
Can you Yeah, you.
Not really. So the Cabinet of the Missing. So the Missing basically is the orchestra. So the orchestra disappeared on this fateful evening, which is what Danse Macabre is all about. And in this Cabinet of the Missing, you can see various. There's things like there's tour posters. There's a scary mirror as well. There are roses, and then part of the cabinet is shattered glass. So it just kind of all really, really builds to that mystery. And it's just that attention to detail, which Efteling does
Yeah.
probably better than any part that I know of.
I think you could have. I think I walked past the Cabinet of the Missing after our first ride, probably because we were in so much shock from just how great the ride was. But we did make sure we went back because it's not just a display board of things. There are things that happen, things that move. We
Don't
don't
think
know
that.
what's come. We don't know what's come out of that broken glass. There's so much speculation that you can make about it, which just means you could return again and again and again, and I don't think you would get the same ride experience. Did you have any disappointments about the ride? Because I had one tiny one.
Shocks me.
Really, but then,
That shocks me.
do
We've
you
not
know that
discussed this.
I know I was going to have like a mic drop moment here on our on our broadcast today. My only slight disappointment was that there is no on ride footage and no on ride photos that you can get because Efteling do this so well. Every single ride has got on ride photos, and they're really good as well. So I was a little bit surprised, and maybe surprised is a better word than
Thank
disappointed. A
you.
little bit sorry. A little bit surprised to see that there wasn't a photo
We're
opportunity.
gonna
However,
a
there
spin.
is one, isn't
Oh,
there? Afterwards.
there is one. Yes, I was going to put a bit of a spin on that as well. Unlike most other big commercial parks, Efteling is not about that making you spend, 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 spend. So that might be part of the reasoning. Also, I think it'd be really difficult to get an on-ride photo
Yeah, that
spinning
that
around.
yeah,
But as you said, there is the opportunity. If you get a photo pass, you can have a Danse Macabre photo, and there's kind of a choir stall set
like
up.
a staged, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
is, yeah,
I
yeah.
think you can get that even if you don't have the ride pass. I think it just uploads it to your ride pass, but you are able to take your own photos as well. So it's not quite the same as having an on ride photo. And I think for some people who want to have that memory of their first ride, it would be great to see it. But like you said, it actually might detract from the ride itself. So I'm going to take away the word disappointment and just put surprised because everything in the rest of the ride is so dynamic, so new that I'm surprised that they didn't find a way to kind of get that part of it in. But I think that is the only thing that I really was surprised about to see,
Yeah,
other than how good it was.
yeah. For me, there was no disappointment. Absolutely, exceeded my expectations, especially with
Only that we could have written it more.
more and more and again and again and again. And if we could, we would. Just to say as well, there is an accessible version of Danse Macabre as well. So if you're unable to actually physically get into the ride or to if there are access restrictions, that there is an accessible way of experience that attraction as well. So it's all the same show, but you're not in the actual ride vehicle. So there is an option there. So nobody misses out, which is wonderful.
Brilliant. And I think, yeah, my advice really from the end of our video as we come to an end today would just be get out there. If you have got the opportunity to go over to Efteling, please do. You will not be disappointed with this ride or with the rest of the park, which is as you'll have seen in our part one and our part two of our Efteling adventure, which is still to come. Um, there is just so much to see and experience, and the way that they have created this ride is just an additional bonus to what was already a park with some absolute superb offerings. So please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for that part two coming up of our Efteling adventure. We'll be covering some more about Winter Efteling. Please, if you've got any questions about riding Danse Macabre, drop them in the comments section. And I definitely advise be cautious with looking for a POV. I was so glad that we stayed strong. We did not give in to watching any of the POVs during our time before we knew we were going to experience this. And I do think that made it even more special.
It did. So I'm just distracted by the unnameable evil. That's just the
The
unnameable
unnameable.
beauty.
Oh, thank you. She's not an unnameable evil, are you, dears? There's definitely no malevolent noises coming from her today.
Good to
Thank you,
hear.
everybody, for joining us. It's been great to see everybody. We can't wait to brave more adventures with you. And thank you ever so much for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.